On your Friday episode of Locked On Raptors, no Scottie Barnes, many problems for the Toronto Raptors in Miami.
You are Locked On Raptors, your daily Toronto Raptors podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, what's going on? And welcome to another episode of Locked On Raptors, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. It is Friday, December the 12th, and I'm your host, Sean Woodley. I've been covering the Toronto Raptors now for 11 seasons on various platforms. You can find all my work over on the socials. I got Blue Sky going. You can find the show on Instagram at Locked On Raptors, and you can join the Locked On Raptors Discord server. Link in the description of the podcast. Great place to come hang out. And of course, you can also go and check out the Locked On Raptors daily newsletter. It's free. You get original writing from me 5 times a week. You get Katie Heindel 4 times a week with national stories, Michael Shearer from Basketball Poetry on Thursdays, fantasy tips from Josh Lloyd, and it's all for the low, low price of On the House. And it turns out, as we'll get into later in the show, you'll be joining some members of the Toronto Raptors who very obviously read the newsletter. So please go and subscribe. You can go to the QR code on the screen, or you can go to the link in the description of the podcast and get it sent to your inbox every single day for free. Today's show is brought to you by our friends over at Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDINNBA for $20 off your first purchase. And we're off and running here late after the buzzer on Thursday night, talking about the Toronto Raptors falling 114-104 to the Miami Heat, sending them into a weekend where they got some days off here as the NBA Cup plays out. And not the best note to go into a 3-day break on, with the Raptors not putting together a particularly fulsome effort in this one. We're going to get into my gripes from this game and all of the different ways in which the absence of Scottie Barnes was felt, and there were many. We're also going to do Toxic Positivity Friday, because we gotta, and turn up the blinders and just talk purely about the first 14 minutes and 23 seconds of this game, which were glorious. We'll get into that in segment number 2. We got the good, the bad, and the coming up later on as well. But let's start off with the stuff that went wrong. And yeah, no Scottie Barnes. It hurts the defense. It hurts the offense. It hurts the everything when Scottie Barnes is not around. And look, the Raptors did a pretty noble job. We'll get into it again in the start of this game, kind of piecing it together, doing the try hard thing. But as this game progressed, a lot of really ugly habits kind of took form, and the offense got extremely sticky. Really tough to find any kind of space, laneways, anything to get going. And the 3-point shooting in this game was not particularly good. They finished 11 of 32 from deep for 34%. I feel like 2 or 3 of those came in the last couple minutes in garbage time. So it was a much worse shooting effort than the end of game stats will tell you. They lose this game by 10. They could have lost this game by 25, and it would not have been, I think, ill-fitting of the mode that this game took. The Heat just kind of took it to the Raptors in this one, and credit to them. And, after the really hot start for Toronto, it just, again, not having Scottie Barnes, I think we should start with the defense, because the defense has been better with Barnes in the lineup. They were 16th in the NBA in defense, perfectly average, respectable in the 10 games Scottie Barnes played after getting injured and coming back. And they were 24th in defense in the games that he missed, the 11 games where they went 2-9 in late October into November. They got back to their roots of being bad at defense without Scottie Barnes in this one, to be sure. And it all starts with this team at the point of attack. Point of attack defense failed the Raptors big time in this game. When you build your defense around the most important guy, the MIG, as Darko Rajakovic likes to say, the beautiful acronym he's used to describe the most important guy in the Raptors defense, the point of attack dude, when that is the thing that you hang your hat on defensively, that your whole game plan stems from, if you're playing like a plush stuffed animal at the point of attack, you're not going to have a whole lot of success. And the Raptors were just not tough enough at the point of attack, not fighting over screens, just getting walked by even without a screen. Just like, okay, Tyler Hero has the ball, Grady Dick is guarding him, and Tyler Hero is just going to walk to the bucket and score. This was not a game where the Raptors perimeter defenders covered themselves in glory. I thought there was a lot of jumpy defense from this team, usually pretty decent at not leaving their feet on the perimeter. But yeah, Davion Mitchell a couple times jumping out of his shoes. There was one instance where he was guarded by Tyler Hero, totally got beat by the pump fake, and Hero just pours in a three as Mitchell goes flying by. You had as well an Ochai Agbaji foul on a Hero three in this game that kind of felt like the death knell. This one put the Heat up by 10, 69-59. They go even the rest of the game after this. But it was a 4-point play where Ochai Agbaji just completely gets worked by Tyler Hero. He loses him on a step back, tries to make up ground, and just sort of erratically flies into him. No doubt a foul. And that's, the thing. There's a big foul disparity in this game. Guess what? The Raptors foul a lot. They deserve the foul disparity they get a lot of the time because on defense, they just can't contain themselves. They simply must foul. And so you get the, 33-15 free throw disparity. Like a lot of this just foolish, needless, out of position stuff that was really the sort of the result, the end result of really bad point of attack defense. Again, Ochai, Davion Mitchell, Grady Dick in particular. This was probably the worst defensive game Grady Dick's played all season. This looked like rookie Grady Dick on defense. Not what you want to see. And it just, you could sense there was like some frustration on Darko Rajakovic's end. It was just not the game that you come to expect from this team, where even when they're outgunned talent-wise, they typically bring it at the point of attack defensively and make it hell for ball handlers to get anything going. In this game, Miami just had way too easy a time. There were Duncan Robinson blow-bys. Duncan Robinson. Come on, man. Like, it just was not the type of game you'd expect. I think there was also some just really bad team defense in this one. They were not at all connected in their three-point defense at all. There were some instances of, kind of getting caught up on switches. There was one, I think, late in the first half, if I'm not mistaken, where Ochai Agbaji just gets totally discombobulated with Davion Mitchell, thinks they're switching. He doesn't, or Mitchell doesn't switch because it's not a switch. And then Nikola Jovic just has like a wide open three that Jimmy Butler sets him up for above the arc. There was another possession later in that half. The Raptors needed that second half to end, or that second quarter to end so badly. They really lost the rope at the end of it. There was a possession where it swings over to the wing. It might have been Jovic again. And RJ Barrett, like, just kind of lackadaisically, there's like sort of, I think Jimmy Butler's standing there, like kind of making a screen, but not really. And RJ Barrett just kind of like watches the shot go up. He doesn't get over. He doesn't fight through the screen to contest or anything like that. Just not good 3-point defense, bad rotations. Even, guys like Jonathan Mobo, who are typically really on the string and who covers so much ground. There were instances where just kind of getting caught ball watching on the strong side, the ball swings to the weak side, and then all of a sudden Mobo's got to make up like 20 feet of ground. You can't do that. So yeah, the defense in this one, I think, is where things hurt them the most. That's not to say that the offense is out of the doghouse either, because the offense in this game, after the start in the first 14 plus minutes, was wretched. It was really tough stuff. And look, it's tough because we've talked about this before. I don't think it's a surprise that RJ Barrett is a little bit overextended as a number one option. That very much bore out to be true in this game. He gets a triple double, 13 points, 11 boards, 10 assists. That's great, I guess, but maybe the least effectual triple double since Ben Uzo. And Ben Uzo, at least his team won that game way back in the day. This was a really rough RJ Barrett game. 5 of 18 from the field. He hits his 1-3 very late in kind of garbage time, semi-garbage time at least. 6 turnovers as well. Somehow managed to be a +4, I'm guessing, on the strength of that first stretch of the game where the Raptors had a couple huge runs. This was not a game where RJ Barrett, lead option, made you feel good and warm inside. It was tough. They got some help when Jakob Poeltl, who was ruled out of this game with back spasms, or taken out of the starting lineup at least, and ruled as doubtful, checks in 2 minutes into the game. That was huge. He offered a lot of sort of offensive release valve stuff. There were some nice high-low finishes. RJ finding Yak with deep seals and getting over the fronting defender and stuff like that. That was great. He had 16 points, 7 of 12. Those push shots were money early on, kind of tapered off as the game went on. But yeah, just in general, like the offense flowing through RJ Barrett in this one, just not enough in terms of advantage creation. And, Miami's just there to sell out, right? Like this was the playbook on RJ when he was running the show when Scottie was out before, right? Is if you just kind of make it so those easy lanes to the bucket where RJ Barrett can barrel through traffic and fly into the rim with soaring lefty finishes, like we've seen so much when Scottie Barnes has been healthy, When you take away those lanes and you just sort of have bodies and arms and help defenders creeping over, there's only so much pick and roll craft that's going to save you. Like, you got to have someone who can score. And RJ just was not able to do that in this one. He also was forced into some shots that I just don't think are his shots. He had like a pull-up mid-range 18-footer. I don't think I ever need to see RJ Barrett take a pull-up mid-range 18-footer ever again. It's really not his shot. And he's got the sort of bruising style that he can get closer than that, get, one of his sort of shots from his office off in most situations. But again, the Heat packing the paint, offering all kinds of help and extra arms and limbs and bodies going to sort of shroud those drives and make them difficult. Like, it's just a hard context for RJ Barrett to succeed in. I don't think this changes much about how I feel about RJ Barrett. I'm generally like, hey, his offense is pretty great when he's a second or third guy. He can use spacing and dynamism of other players to really get his looks off, and he's awesome at doing it. He's a wonderful play finisher, but running the show, it's leaving a lot to be desired right now. And I think Emmanuel quickly eventually coming back is going to help with this. I don't think it changes necessarily for me, anything he's doing on offense, what I think about him for this team long term. The defense is another story, is he was very much one of the culprits in this one. Sleepy defense, not getting back quick enough, losing guys in transition, just a tough one overall. In basically every facet that the Raptors have been kind of getting better at of late. Their offensive process, their flow, their defense has been on the steady upswing. This was a throwback to some of the worst of the early days of the Scottie Barnes absence for the Raptors. Kind of that Western Conference road trip, it stands out as sort of the last time they looked like this. I think you could argue this is the worst game they've played against a team that's not leading their conference. The games where they got blown out by the Cavs and the Thunder were not great. The Heat are not either of those teams, and they're playing well. They were on a streak coming into this game. I think they've won 4 in a row now. Good for them. But yeah, this was a game where the Raptors looked outclassed by a team that very recently they did not at all looked outclassed by. That's the Scottie Barnes difference. It's tough without Scottie. It'll get better than this, I'm sure. There will be nights where it works. Grady Dick is going to have evenings where he goes off and carries the team, like it looked like he might early in this game, which we'll get to in a second here. But for the most part, without Scottie Barnes, this is going to have to be sort of a ragtag defense and sort of offense by committee type of situation. They just did not have enough of that in this game. We'll come back on the other side. And it's Toxic Positivity Friday, baby. We're going to put up the blinders to the bad stuff in this game and just focus on the first 14-23 of this game, which was awesome. Super fun. We'll do that coming up in just 1 second. Today's show is sponsored by Robinhood Gold. With Robinhood Gold, you don't need a silver spoon to eat up the financial favors of the 1%. Robinhood Gold allows others to get the rates and perks usually reserved for the high society. Now, the resourceful individual with Robinhood Gold can earn the very liberal rate of 4.25% APY on uninvested cash and be rewarded with a handsome 3% retirement boost on IRA account contributions. Robinhood Gold provides the privileges of a high net worth for any net worth. These generous benefits are now available for only $5 a month. The new gold standard is here with Robinhood Gold. Sign up at Robinhood.com/gold. Terms apply. For product-specific disclosures, visit Robinhood.com/gold. Investing involves risk. Rate may change. Gold membership is offered by Robinhood Gold, LLC.
You are Locked On Raptors, your daily Toronto Raptors podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, what's going on? And welcome to another episode of Locked On Raptors, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host, Sean Woodley. You know the spiel. On today's show, we're talking about the Toronto Raptors. 41-25 winners over the Miami Heat in a weirdly abbreviated basketball game. I don't know why they called this one at the 8:37 mark of the second quarter, but it's all we have to talk about in this one. There was nothing else that happened after that. And so we just got to talk about the game that's in front of us. You can only play the schedule that's there. And in this case, the Toronto Raptors played a game that was 14 minutes and 23 seconds long. And boy, oh boy, were the Raptors awesome in those 14 minutes and 23 seconds. It was some inspired basketball by a team without its best player in Scottie Barnes that has absolutely no business being as fun and spunky as it is, and yet a big-time 41-25 win over the Heat, which honestly could have been an even wider gap of victory, considering the Raptors missed a lot of chippies in this one. This is a thing they do. They miss shots around the rim. It's not ideal. They do it a lot, but in this game, the Raptors overcame it. Their defense was smothering for the first 14-23, or all 14-23 of this game. And, on top of that, you get some really excellent shot making. We'll kind of dive into all of that here on today's show. We should start with Grady Dick, who was just absolutely cooking Bam Adebayo's ass. Everyone's ass was there to be cooked by Grady Dick in this game, and it was awesome. Obviously, the standout play from his 12-point effort in this one comes in the first quarter, and he's got Bam Adebayo on him on an ISO, and he totally sizes him up, crossover, stop, pump fake, gets Bam out of his shoes, and then a beautiful like DeMar DeRozan-esque step through for a floater. You love to see that. It was a really exciting game from Grady Dick. He was driving with force. He had a coast-to-coast dunk in this game. We'll talk about dunks coming up a little bit later on in the show too, making me quite happy. Just a really excellent, this is the kind of game from Grady Dick. Like, the Raptors are going to win more games like this if Grady Dick is able to come out and kind of play with that kind of verve and energy and downhill, just driving fortitude, right? Like, he just was unafraid of Bam Adebayo, unafraid of the Heat and all of their prying arms and hands. A really excellent game from him. 12 points in 14 minutes. Like, you'll take that. Nearly a point a minute. That's incredible stuff from Grady Dick. It's been nice to see him just back in the lineup. The extra juice he provides. I mean, the Raptors are still like 5.5 points per 100 possessions better on offense when he is out there. He just drives more effective offense for this team. And he was a big part of why the Raptors were able to put up 41 points in 14 minutes. Like, pretty good stuff for a team that's had some struggles scoring the ball of late. I thought as well, just the defense in this game was really impressive. Just swarming, connected, hands everywhere, forcing turnovers. 7 first quarter turnovers for the Heat in this one. And the Raptors ran down Miami's throats because of it. They had one of their better transition games of the season. That isn't kind of a slow turnaround. We've talked about their bad transition to start the year. Just like a really, really good connected defensive quarter. Got to give some flowers to Jamal Shead in particular. Jamal Shead was awesome on both ends of the floor in this game. He hawked a passing lane for his steal, went and scored. He had a pull-up 3 that he scored on as well. Just like a really all-encompassing effort from Jamal Shead, who's been kind of, falling out of the rotation a little bit, not figured to be a big part of the rotation once Quickly gets back or once even Barnes is in the lineup, right? Like, when Barnes was there, we saw his minutes dissipate a little bit. I thought he was fantastic in the 14 minutes of this game, where he played like 6 minutes, I think, of the 14. A pretty good minutes load. I thought he was awesome. He was just so energetic. And I think the other thing too with Jamal Shead, the passing with him is next level stuff. This was a thing coming out of college. We knew that he was a good passer. We knew that Jamal Shead kind of had the floor game and the vision and the table setting instincts of point guards that you love to see. And in this game, he had like a beautiful pocket pass to Jakob Poeltl for a bucket. He even had this pass. It was like a glorious cross-court skip pass to the corner for Grady Dick in the corner. Grady missed the 3, but it was beautiful in just like the delivery of it. A guy that tall, 6 feet tall, like, should not be making reads like that, but Jamal Shead seems to make him a lot. He was awesome in this game. One of the standouts for sure. Also a standout, Jakob Poeltl, man. Like, there's something brewing with this guy. He's just got a little pop to him, right? And he does it on both ends. The defensive stuff with him is well beyond his years. Like, the way he slides his feet. Our pal Esper Henny highlighted a section of this game where he had like a beautiful, just sort of like, it just dancing with, I think it was Terry Rozier, just beautiful footwork defensively, walled off the drive. And it's just like, you're not supposed to be that good at defense as a 20-year-old. And this was the thing I figured was going to take the longest for Jakob Poeltl to figure out, but it seems it's come along quite quickly for him, which is amazing to see. He's knocking in threes now in this game. He goes 1 of 1 from downtown in 14 minutes. That's great. I think he might have been 1 of 2 actually. Hitting those threes. He's got, and also he had another Raptors young guard wing type with a beautiful DeMar DeRozan inspired sequence where he has Terry Rozier on him, totally sizes him up, pumps, gets the foul, off glass finish. Again, like total visions of DeMar DeRozan. Really great stuff from Jakob Poeltl in this one. And also, hey, we forgot to mention the surprise Jakob Poeltl wrestling entrance after not playing at the start of the game. Comes in after 2 minutes. Shout out to Bruno Fernando for his +2 in this game and the one bucket he hit. Awesome to see. But Jakob Poeltl checking in. It was a little concerning when he was ruled out with back spasms before the game or pulled out of the lineup. Comes in, does his job. It was a really good 14-minute stretch from Jakob Poeltl to start the game. Like really, I mean, it wasn't 14 minutes that he played. He played like 7 of them, but I thought his finishing on offense and, the general sort of wheel greasing he does on the offensive end, really great stuff from Jakob Poeltl as well. So all told, I mean, hard to come away with anything that you don't feel great about. I mean, RJ Barrett wasn't super efficient, but he did have 4 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists in this game, and was just like, diamond dudes up early on. A couple of really beautiful passes from him. He had one gorgeous pocket pass to Ochai Agbaji underneath that like through so much traffic. Pretty ridiculous that he was able to pull that one out. We've seen this, right? The on-ball scoring stuff with him is not incredible, but the playmaking, the pick and roll craft, the passing out of it absolutely is a thing he's made a leap with this year. And he's just much better. Like that's a skill you can lean on. That's a skill you can find ways to work into what you're doing once you're at full health. Find little pockets where that can be effective. It will be more effective when a guy like Quickly's on the floor and there's more shooting around him and space for him to operate in the middle of the floor. So yeah, not the most efficient night from RJ, but he gets the win and is the leading man in the job. So yeah, big one for the Raptors. They move to 8 and 18 on the season with their 41-25 victory over the Miami Heat. Beautiful work for the Raptors in this one. Really just took it to Miami. You quiet the other team's home crowd like that. It's pretty impressive stuff. So awesome stuff. Again, weird that they stopped this game at the 8:37 mark of the second quarter. It wasn't quite cleared as to why the officials did that, but they did, and you'll take it if you're the Raptors. This happens in baseball sometimes, right? You get to 5 innings in a game, and a rain delay happens, and then they say, oh, we'll call the game, and it's over. It kind of feels weird that you get the win when that happens, but it happened here. So good on the Raptors. Big win, 1-game winning streak. Heading into the weekend, a pretty good way to send them off here on a Toxic Positivity Friday. We'll come back on the other side, round it out with the good, the bad, and the from the Toronto Raptors and their 41-25 win over the Miami Heat. We'll get to that coming up in just one sec. Today's show is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel, the #1 sportsbook in North America. You can go check it out right now. And because you're a new customer, if you are a new customer, you'll be able to bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win that $5 bet. That's pretty sweet. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. And it's not just, of course, the NFL you can throw money down on. Yes, maybe you're watching football on a Sunday. You want to make some in-game bets, but you can also go and bet against the Toronto Raptors, who, against the spread, once again, win tonight. They keep on beating the spread. They keep on covering. Why not go and throw a little money down them to cover next time out? You're probably going to win based on what they've done this season. It's been a pretty good bet over the course of the year. Of course, things can vary and things can fall off, but so far, betting on the Raptors to cover the spread has been a pretty good bet so far this year that you'd win some money on if you were doing it every single night. Not that I recommend doing it every single night, but you can, and the Raptors keep on covering. That's FanDuel.com. Go check it out. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Wrapping it up here on your Friday edition of the Locked On Raptors podcast, talking about the good, the bad, and the from the Toronto Raptors falling 114-104 to the Miami Heat. 7-19 on the season. Not ideal. Not what you want, but hey, lottery balls, I guess. It's fun. There's lots of cool guys in the draft. It's hard to get too upset about any of these games. It's a really nice time doing this podcast this year. It's a bonus good. Not feeling like I'm living and dying with results and not feeling like there is existential dread tied to every result. And every win is cool and every loss is just like, okay, whatever, more lottery balls, I guess. It's been fun all the way through. Let's get into the good. Of course, this is how we wrap up every podcast after a Toronto Raptors basketball game. A thing I liked, a thing I didn't like, a thing that's got me a little bit intrigued. Let's get to the thing I liked. And I talked about it earlier. It's the dunks, baby. I wrote about it this week in the newsletter. I talked about it on Thursday's podcast with Katie Heindel. The Raptors, averse to dunking, haven't had a whole lot of very loud yams. And tonight, Jakob Poeltl, his 6th dunk of the season after just checking in. Wonderful stuff. Grady Dick, coast to coast dunk, 3rd dunk of the season for him. And then Ochai Agbaji in the second half of this game on a broken play, offensive rebound, kicked out. He drives and he absolutely throws down on Jakob Poeltl. He gets forearm shivered. Poeltl does into Abaji's lane, and he gets put on the poster of his teammate. Putting your own teammate on your poster, that's just good teamwork. Is that good friendship? Is that bad friendship and teamwork? I don't know. Is this going to cause a schism in the Raptors locker room dynamics because Jakob Poeltl has been posterized by Ochai Agbaji? I don't know, but I don't care because the dunk ruled, and that's the kind of stuff we're talking about. And I'm thinking the only one thing can explain Jakob Poeltl dunking for just the 6th time this season and Grady Dick dunking for just the 3rd time this season. Very clearly, the Toronto Raptors are reading the newsletter, and the newsletter is bulletin board material, which to me is the real good. You can join the Toronto Raptors in supporting the Locked On Raptors newsletter by going to the QR code on the screen or the link in the description of the podcast. So that's the good. Dunks, baby. They're back. Hopefully not going anywhere after this one, and there are more dunks to be had. I think they still only had like 3 or 4 in the game. We could still do more than that. Let's get to the bad, shall we? It's just the general lack of shot creation. There are a million bad things I could talk about in this game, individual performances, all that stuff. But I feel bad for RJ Barrett a little bit just because he's been put in a position where it's just really tough for him to find effective, offense. Again, 5 of 18 for him in this game. Really tough stuff. I think, look, it makes sense. No Scottie Barnes, no Emmanuel Quickly, no duh. It's hard to create offense for this team. It's not surprising. It doesn't change how I feel about this team as a whole. It's just the reality we're operating within right now. And, it's going to be tough for a little while here, barring some remarkable leap made by Jakob Poeltl as an on-ball guy or Kelly Olynyk finding some craft as an elbow creator or whatever. Like, it's just going to be tricky for this team to find offense, which makes it all the more upsetting that their defense let them down so badly in this game. Like, if they're going to win games, it's going to have to be ugly. And they just did not ugly it up enough in this one to make up for the lack of shot creation. And it's tough. Like, it's also really easy to coach against, right? If you're Eric Spoelstra and well, RJ is kind of the only guy we're worried about creating offense here. Okay, we'll just sell out and stop RJ, where we're going to send extra help his way. We're going to make his life miserable. Like, that's just like a very easy adjustment for a coach to make. And it didn't take long. It took 14 minutes and 23 seconds, really, for that adjustment to be made to just kind of cover RJ's drives with a blanket. And it's tough. There's no alternative options. Davion Mitchell had a couple moments of nice drives, but again, his offensive creativity is kind of limited to moments where he can just kind of dust the dude off the bounce. He's not really doing much in like pick and roll creation stuff or anything like that. It's very much, hey, there's a guy, I'm going to beat him to the rim and I'm going to probably score. He had an and one in this game. That was nice. But yeah, just not a lot of organic shot creation to be had from this team right now. And it's tough to get over, but it's your bad for this game. Let's get to the shall we? And it is Jakob Poeltl. What exactly happened at the start of this game? The 2 minutes that he sat, I don't know if I've ever seen this before. A guy is said to be starting and then gets taken out of the starting lineup and then comes back in. They were saying back spasms. What's the real reason here? My theory is pregame deuce ran a little long. Maybe. I don't know. Just spitballing ideas here. I don't know. I could be totally wrong. I'm probably totally wrong. But yeah, weird situation, but very glad Jakob Poeltl was able to get back and play. He didn't have the greatest game in this one by any means, and I think he was put in a tough position by the perimeter defense. Like, the Heat just had a parade to Jakob Poeltl's area of the floor in this game because of the perimeter breakdowns. And credit to him, the Heat shoot just 60% at the rim in this game. Not very good, a 27th percentile rim percentage in a game this season per clean the glass. So it's not like Yak was, letting everything go by at the rim, but it wasn't like a perfect defensive game from him either. The entire team just did not feel super connected overall. But yeah, it was still nice to see him get back in there. And like, I'm glad we didn't have to see life without Jakob Poeltl for an extended period of time, because as much as he's imperfect, we know by now Jakob Poeltl not being available for the Raptors is kind of a death knell to their chances of being successful in any given game. So, yeah, nice to see him hopefully shake the back spasms. He's got 3 days off now. Use that heating pad, brother. Your back spasms hopefully are a thing of the past. We'll leave it there. Thank you so much for hanging out and tuning in to an episode where I definitely took everything very, very seriously. It's Friday. It's silly, baby. Sending you off into the weekend. Getting weird. Thank you so much for rocking with the show. Please follow, subscribe, rate, review. Go check out the newsletter. Of course, it's free. It's daily. It's in your inbox. And you just got to go to the QR code on the screen if you're watching on YouTube, or go to the link in the description of the podcast and go check it out there. Makes me feel very good. We're over 500 subs on the newsletter. Very cool. Thank you to everybody who has subscribed. If you haven't yet, do it. The Raptors are reading it, obviously. Why shouldn't you be reading it as well? So with that, we will send you off into your weekend. We'll be back again on Monday. Our pal Joseph Charles is going to pop by, because over the weekend, December the 15th happens, and that means trade season is upon us. We're going to do a trade season primer with Joey Cash on Monday. And of course, we've got our regular coverage. They've got a game on Monday, I think, against the Bulls or the Nets or some bad team. So we'll talk about that. And busy week as always. And we will talk to you on the other side of this weekend. Thank you so much for hanging out. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.